think, act, and prosper. You are now tuned into the Money Level Show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Money Level Show, where we think, act, and prosper. If you're new to this channel exists to engage ordinary people on their journey to financial freedom by simplifying complex financial topics, building a community with each other, and providing professional guidance. Nothing on this channel should be considered financial advice or recommendations. So let's jump into this today. Today, we're going to talk about negotiation. So I recently did a course through Harvard University on negotiation, and I want to share some tips with you that can help you through the process of coming up with an agreement with someone. Obviously, you're not going to get every single thing that I learned from Harvard, but I want to give you some tips that can help you as you consider how to go about these situations, because some people may feel comfortable negotiating, some people may not feel comfortable negotiating, some people may get anxiety when it comes to making a deal with someone. But this is a big topic and a big concept that happens in business all the time. It happens in investing, whether you're buying a piece of gold and silver from someone, whether you're buying a collector's car or whatever, or you go to an estate sale or whatnot. So you want to be able to have these tools to be able to engage people successfully in negotiation, and both parties leave the situation with a win-win. You don't want another party feeling like they've been taken advantage of. At least I don't. So let's go ahead and jump into this. So negotiation historically has always been viewed as a win-lose situation. One person gets all the benefits and the other person loses out. So this was really a tactic that was used for a long time, and many people felt like, man, like I got taken advantage of, or this person got the best of me. And then you begin to see like people start to get a bad reputation from this. So for example, I think of Ray Kroc. One of my favorite movies is The Founder, and Ray Kroc, who wasn't a McDonald's brother, had a vision for McDonald's that they did not have. He had a bigger vision for it, and he really loved the name McDonald's. He said that, hey, Crocs doesn't sound good. McDonald's sounds good. And so ultimately he ended up buying the real estate that the McDonald's franchises were on, and so he became the owner of the land. And so he gained a lot of power that way whenever the McDonald's brothers would not be open to his ideas and how he wanted to be innovative with the company. And so that's part of a situation that obviously has some win-lose dynamics. I mean, Ray Kroc would lose out whenever he tried to do something innovative, and the McDonald's brothers ended up losing out in the end because they didn't get to see the full potential of McDonald's, and they also were paid out by Ray Kroc, but they got paid way less money than they would have had if they would have been share owners of the company. So it just goes to show that working together can bring a better benefit for everyone. That's just an example of that. If you work together, it can be a win-win situation, versus, if you want to be combative or get whatever you can get out the deal, it can easily lead to a win-lose situation. So jumping into negotiation, there's all types of negotiations, and you want to be aware of what kind of negotiation are you in. Are you in a negotiation where you're using Facebook Messenger and you're on the Facebook Marketplace and it's going to be a one-time thing, right? Sometimes that can be a situation where people may tend to want a win-lose situation. They're like, hey, I need to get the best benefit, the best bang for my buck out of this. And so forget everything else. I'm going to go with the highest price or whatnot. And so a lot of times that may be a situation where people may consider a win-lose. I had a recent situation like that where I sold an actual car of mine. However, the woman buying the car was buying it for her daughter, and her daughter needed consistent transportation. And so we had some mutual friends. The daughter went to a school that I was friends with the principal. And so when we struck this deal, it was just me like Like, hey, what do you need? What are you looking for in a vehicle? Okay, these are the issues with this vehicle. And so I wanted to be transparent with them because the daughter was young and she needed consistent transportation to get to work. And I did not want to be taking advantage of her in that situation. And so I wanted it to be a win-win situation for both. So sometimes you may have those one-time deals. Sometimes you may be negotiating a situation where it is multiple years involved. So like if you're doing a business negotiation, you may be in business with a company or a person for, year after year after year. And so you have to think about the longevity of that relationship. And so if you come in negotiating at a win-lose situation and the person feels you took advantage of them or that you were trying to take advantage of them, that can hurt a long-term relationship. And so you have to consider, what type of negotiation is this? How long is the relationship going to last? So those are some things that you want to consider. So now, you also want to consider your reputation. A lot of times people have done negotiations and don't think about their reputation, and then they get a reputation for being a shady individual. Or that can lead to a customer not wanting to come back to your business, right? And ultimately, if you're a business, we live in a capitalistic society, well, a quote unquote capitalistic society. and you want to be competitive. And so someone will come and take your business and do it better if your customers are feeling like you're not taking care of them. And so negotiation works in a lot of different scenarios, and we do it a lot of times without even knowing we're doing it. And so let's go ahead and get into the steps how you can become a better negotiator. Now, the first step is to show empathy. Okay, so empathy is something that you want to put yourself in the shoes of other people. You want people to feel like you're listening to them, like they're being understood, and that you care about their situation. So a lot of times whenever we go to a negotiation, we have our needs and the other person has their needs, and their needs may be like, hey, I'm in this situation. Like, for example, with the car, like, hey, I'm in this situation. My car is broke down. I need something reliable. And so for me to show empathy in that situation, that helps build the rapport with the person that I'm negotiating with. And so people want to feel heard and understood. So you want to show empathy. Sometimes you may be in a negotiation where a person has a lot of leverage over you. And you may be at the mercy of that person. Say, like, if you're in a desperate situation, you're trying to sell something, a person that has money doesn't really need what you're selling them. They can go buy it elsewhere. They can pay up, for it, or they can find it cheaper somewhere. And you may feel like, hey, I'm really at the disadvantage here. And so, showing empathy in that situation may be a little more challenging. It may be based on the other person showing empathy for you, right? Number 2 is to be assertive about your needs and what will help you feel good about the deal. Now, a lot of times, even for me, like when I'm negotiating, I get so caught up in the empathy side of it that I'm not assertive about what I need. And so sometimes, like, I'm like, okay, I'm a generous person, let me just bless this person, and even if I don't get as much back, right? And sometimes, like, I lose out because I'm not assertive about what I need. So you have to be assertive about what you need, and you have to have the balance between empathy and assertion of what you need and showing empathy for others, right? So be assertive about what you need. Number 3 is creating value. So creating value is being creative in a situation. So let's say you're in a negotiation and you hit a roadblock. You hit a roadblock in a negotiation. You're like, hey, dang, we can't get past the situation. This person has, they only have $2,000 and I need at least $2,500 for this, and that's just not going to work. Right. And so creating value can be like, hey, what else do you have? What else can you put with the 2,000 that's valuable, that I can use, or that I can, have as a form of value to make up the $500. So sometimes you may think of things creatively, like, okay, well, I give you $2,000 and I also have this leather jacket, right? So, just things like that, just being creative and not getting stuck in one component of it, because you want to create value where it's like, hey, well, I've always wanted a leather jacket, so that works for me. And then I'll also take the 2,000. Obviously, this is just an example. I mean, there's so many varying factors in this, whatnot, but that you get the point. Creating value is very important. And you may see certain obstacles come up in a negotiation that you have to be more creative in order to have a successful negotiation. All right. Number 4 is claiming value. You have to claim value. I had trouble with this before in my course, is that sometimes value would be on the table and I would be like, I'm fine. I don't need that, and it's like, hey, well, you want to have that balance of creating value, but also claiming the value that's created. So sometimes you may be lenient, or you may be, empathetic towards a person, and you may offer them something like, they're like, man, I really appreciate him or her offering me that. Right. So in thinking about that, the person may be like, well, I'm going to go ahead and offer this person this because this is a way of me showing appreciation for them offering me something. So that's something that you may want to claim. You may want to claim that value that was created, because a negotiation should be value creation, and claiming. And you want to equally claim as much value as you can that has been created. And so you want that to be, as balanced as possible. Now, a few other things that you want to think about is your BATNA. This is your best alternative to negotiated agreement, right? So if you go into a negotiation and say like the negotiation, you don't know how it's going to go, right? You want to have your best alternative. So like, okay, if we don't reach a deal today, then what's my best alternative? So for example, say you're going into a car dealership and you have, cash you want to pay on the car, and you're like, hey, okay, I got cash. So if this car dealership don't work out, I can go on Craigslist, I can go on OfferUp, I can go on Facebook Marketplace, I can go to another dealership, I can, drive the streets and find car signs in the windows, and so if you're in that situation, the dealer's trying to get rid of the car, right? And you may want to like, hey, I want the car cheaper, right? And you want to think about, okay, well, if I don't get this car, what's my best alternative if we don't reach an agreement? And so you really want to have that in your mind, because you want to be thinking about like, hey, okay, if this doesn't work out, I can go here and actually, make a deal over here. Right. And so that way you're not tied to something. And then that person that you're doing business with has to, decide what their BATNA is. What is their best alternative? A lot of times you may be in a situation where you may be negotiating with someone that doesn't have a best alternative. Say a car's been sitting on a lot for, 60 days and you come in and look at it or whatnot. And it's like, okay, well, if you want to get rid of this car that's been here 60 days, I've been driving by it a lot, if you want to get rid of this car, then we need to make a deal. And so they may not have a best alternative for getting rid of that car. Right. And so you really want to have your best alternative ready and thought through before you go into the negotiation. All right. So the next thing you want to have is, what is the most that you are willing to pay? If it is one penny, $1 past that amount, over that amount, that you would walk away. And so, and you always have to be willing to walk away in a negotiation. So you want to have that maximum amount, like, okay, this is where I'm going. And you don't necessarily want to share that with the person right off the bat. Like, oh yeah, this is my maximum amount. And so this is where we get to the zone of possible agreement, which is called the ZOPA, right? So once you get to the ZOPA, the maximum amount that you're willing to pay for this item or whatever. And the other person you're negotiating with has the minimum amount that they're willing to accept. And so you have to kind of use your language, use your words, kind of figure out what the person needs and all those different things, so that you can kind of get within that range of like your maximum you're willing to spend and the minimum they're willing to take for it. So you want to get within that range. And it's helpful if you know that range. Sometimes people may say, hey, I'm not going to share the maximum I'm willing to pay, because then the person's going to try to charge that. Some people may share the maximum they're willing to pay, but then also be able to talk people down from that. Say like they find flaws in the vehicle or they find flaws in whatever else. Like, hey, this is the maximum I'm willing to pay. Okay, it's within that range. Okay, cool. It's more than your minimum, but however, I see this issue with this here, I have to buy new tires on the vehicle, blah, blah, blah. And so then you can actually bring that ZOPA down, not bring the ZOPA down, but then you can actually get the deal, cheaper than what you're willing to pay maximum, right? So that's one thing that you want to keep in mind when you're going into a negotiation. So I want to thank you all for listening in today. Be sure to check out these steps that I've given you today, the tips that I've given you. Use that in your negotiations. Practice your negotiating. There's a lot of situations you can negotiate with. I negotiate with my kids all the time, right? So be sure to use these steps, practice, get used to negotiating, especially if you're anxious when it comes to negotiations and such. This will be a very healthy practice for you as you continue to grow and you want to make good deals with people. So be sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet. And I want to thank you all for joining the Money Level Show today. All right, peace.